Hey everyone, here's a 25 Everbloom I did today. Let's start with talents. So I am running something a little different than I typically do. So the thought process behind this build is I was curious and I wanted to test out what the rank 1 bear was using, and it's actually this. It's basically, yeah, it's exactly this. I accidentally ran 2 charges of SI in this dungeon because I was running it in a DHT and I forgot to change it. But this doesn't mean that I recommend playing this. I was just experimenting at the time, and this honestly felt really good. So if you want, you can play around with this, but I would still probably recommend people play something that looks like this. But reason is just more damage with the Moonfire Talons, more rage generation, more uptime on defensives, better off healing. I was just playing around. Another thing I could have done was remove corruption, because there's stingers that I can dispel, and there's also the abominations which I could dispel on myself. We only end up pulling 1 abomination, so wouldn't get much value there, but we had a resto druid and a paladin that could cleanse the poison, so I didn't really think much about it. As for trinkets, I ran cheat death and rage heart. That's pretty much all I have to say there, so let's get into the key. Also, the route, as I'm pushing higher and higher, I'm experimenting with routes a little bit more. You'll see in this video, it's not my typical route. It's not the same route I did in my other Everbloom I posted earlier. So for this first Naturalist, we needed a kick rotation, so it was me first, Rogue second, Paladin third, but you'll see I don't know if we get the third interrupt because that mob is just sitting in the back wailing on me. Doesn't end up being a big of a deal. But yeah, first pull here can be rough. There's a few Berserkers plus Abomination. That's why I threw down the Ursul's Vortex right off the bat, just so they don't charge away, so we can try to AoE them down, especially because we have Bloodlust. We're doing lots of damage right now. Things are dying. So as you can see right there, not ideal for me to have to interrupt that mob, but not too bad. So yeah, one thing... So ever since I started pushing higher and higher, just the way I play and what I'm thinking about, I've noticed has changed. One of the biggest things I've noticed is I just raise less. It's just a mindset thing. If I'm going to a pack of mobs and I'm not 100% confident, it's just so much easier for me mentally just to spam Iron Fur, because I'm spending more time at the armor cap. I do go above the armor cap, especially during Incarn. As you'll see, I have 10 stacks of Iron Fur. That's not ideal. It would be worth it more to send more rage into raise for more damage and more absorbs. I'd be tankier as well because I'm already at the armor cap. But the nice thing about Bear is if you're running Thorns of Iron, even if you're going past the armor cap, you're still doing reasonable damage. Not as much as I could have been, but it's enough to time these keys that I'm doing. So the only thing that's there's a couple things in these pulls that are kind of scary as a tank, because these lashers make us take increased damage. I don't know exactly the amount, but when you add in the naturalists that do the Dancing Thorns cast, it's a lot of tank damage. So the higher and higher you go, especially on fortified, you really want to tell your DPS to help you out a little bit with the Dancing Thorns. 25 Tyrannical, it's not too bad. I'm just rotating through my CDs, trying to kick everything I can, using In-Cap Roar to stop as many casts as I can, Typhoon to stop as many casts as I can. I did Ursul's here to prevent the stingers from jumping to my friends, but yeah, these pulls really aren't that bad. The nice thing about this dungeon is because it's so dense, you're getting pretty much maximum value from Blood Frenzy at all times. So as long as you're not overcapping on rage and you're spending it efficiently, your Incarn is yeah, I mean, you have Incarn up. It feels like you're in permanent Incarn. It feels really good. So yeah, a little bit different route here. We're gonna go left here. My thought process with routing through here is trying to pull as little abominations, stingers, and berserks as I can. I don't really do a good job of the pulling less stingers here. As you can see, there's 2 stingers in this pull right now. I could Ursul's here. I don't know if I actually do, but Ursul's would help a little bit. Well, actually, I don't think it would. I think everyone's in melee, so it wouldn't end up doing anything. But another thing I don't do enough in this key, I think, is use my regrowth procs. I don't know why. Maybe it was just our healer was doing really good and I didn't feel like I had to, but I think I could have gotten a lot more value from that. So yeah, these stingers do, like, their pat right here is so weird. They do like a double back take. I don't even know what that was. One thing you can do with those stingers, if they're in a bad pat, or they're no, rather they're in a good pat, but they're moving towards a bad position, you can actually Ursul's Vortex them. It won't put you in combat, and it'll slow down their pats, so you have more time to run through. One thing about Everbloom is the pulls always kind of look scary because there's so much mobs, or so many mobs, but really the only scary things in these packs as a tank is the naturalists. Bear isn't exactly super strong against magic damage, so one thing that can really help is having a DPS or healer that is able to remove the stacks that the Dread Petals put on you. So we have a Paladin who can freedom me. That really helps. They're doing it pretty much off cooldown. But there's also things like Tiger's Lust. I'm sure there's other things, but those are the only ones I know off the top of my head. You could, like, Typhoon the mobs away and shapeshift really quick, but I don't really like doing that. It's kind of risky, but if you have to do it, you have to do it. So yeah, like this pull right here, like, I'm pretty sure if this was fortified, I'd just die there. I chained into 3 naturalists when I had like a ton of stacks from the Dread Petals. Also, as you can see here, something super unideal happens. I think our Paladin's Divine Storm sent one of those like mini Divine Storms forward and it pulled the extra pack. As you can see, one of our pugs says ... I love it. It's such an, I don't know why that's so tilting when people do that, but we carry on. Another thing you're going to see me do in this dungeon is, you know, it's really popular to pull the Dread Petals with the boss, and you can absolutely do that no matter what week it is. However, on a tyrannical week, I know that the only possible way that I will die on this boss is if I have maximum stacks from the Dread Petals and I get hit by a frontal and I get one shot. So what I end up doing here is pulling these Dread Petals. Instead of pulling them with the boss, I just pull them with this next caster pack. Still, again, maximum stacks of the debuff can be scary with the naturalists, but on tyrannical, not too bad. And as long as I rotate through my CDs, it's not too bad. So our hunter is spamming me to pull it with a pack, which I'm already going to do. I just, since the healer pulled them, I wanted to make sure I had aggro on them before I engage. So yeah, in-cap roar there to stop as many casts as I can. Ursul's Typhoon combo, same thing, just to stop as many casts as I can. And then I'm just praying that my group kicks and whatnot. I am calling for it. Me, the healer, and the Paladin Rogue are in comm, so I am telling them to just help me out, kick as many Dancing Thorns as they can, use their stops. This boss is a tank. Like I said, since we're not pulling the Dread Petals, this is like one of the easiest bosses to tank. I'm pretty sure at this key level, even on Tyrannical, if I took the frontal or the tank buster unmitigated, I don't think I would get one shot. I mean, maybe I would, but luckily we don't really have to do that because we have so many defensives. So I just pop everything on the pull here. Bark Skin, Rage of the Sleeper, Incarn. There could be some merit to holding Incarn for the DPS phase, but because Incarn has the CDR component, it doesn't feel great to hold it, so I just end up sending it on the pull here. One thing I do pretty poorly on this fight, and I'm not sure why, but my Moonfire uptime, I don't think it was that fantastic. There's quite a few times where Moonfire was off the main or the boss. I think it's because I was focused so much on getting aggro of the ads when they were spawning, but you want to keep on a single target. You want to keep Moonfire up 100% of the time and your Thrash stacks 100% of the time, so misplay on my part. So my tip for picking up the ads is Moonfire them, taunt them if it's off cooldown, and then just try to send a Thrash in there. You don't really want to be raising. You want to be mauling Witherbark just because he's taking double damage, and you win the fight by killing the boss, not the ad. So I do, you know, I'll mangle them just for threat, but as you can see, mauling the Witherbark, keeping up Moonfire. I'm not using any rage on raise. That's just padding at that point. Just trying to kill Weatherbark as fast as I can. Another nice thing is because he's taking double damage, and our Mauls are doing double damage, we're getting double the value from Ursock's Fury. So, even though we're playing semi-offensively, we're still getting pretty big defensive value from that. Yeah, see, like I'm just letting Moonfire fall off. Not ideal. I might raise like occasionally just for threat, but if you see me raise on this fight, it's for threat. It's not to pad or anything. As you can see, because I sent Incarn on the pull, I do have it up again. This is honestly kind of unfortunate timing because it came up, of course, when he was out of his damage phase, but I don't really like holding Incarn. And it's still effective damage. It just could be higher. Sending my Rage Heart here. I mean, I guess I could have sent it because of the frontal, but Rage Heart, the on use does do a lot of damage. So again, I probably should have held it, but I don't know. You'd have to ask me in the moment why I didn't hold it. I'm a hindsight herald. Oh, another thing is I accidentally set it so the recording, it automatically splits the video if it is longer than 15 minutes. So at the 15-minute mark, I'm going to have to quickly change to the other video. So there will be a small hiccup. It'll be fast, I promise. This boss, though, really uneventful. It's one of those bosses, though, where I feel like it's honestly, as a DPS or healer, it can be easy to die because those I don't even know what you'd call them, the roots on the ground, they kind of hurt. Like if you take a tick of it and you get hit by a rogue swirly, you could just die. So I mean, it's a free fight, but it's not a free fight if you feel me. So yeah, I could be regrowthing here, but the thing is like really there should, like, these people I don't think should be taking damage. I think they're just standing in swirlies and standing in the roots. So a little bit of human error there. It's all good though. I did do this. This key was 26, but unfortunately we went to the third boss. So like my route did change a little bit from that key because we were short 1%. So even if we didn't wipe, I'm pretty sure we would still not have timed it just because of my mistake. So the thing I changed here is I pulled, I think yeah, the at Berserker, just because I knew we were short 1%. So I pull it. Pulling Berserker, not 100% optimal, but it's tyrannical. It's not that bad. So right here we got a triple naturalist pull. I mean, naturalist as a bear are kind of scary. I mean, they're scary as any tank, even the good magic damage resistant tanks, just because they cast so frequently. It's hard to mitigate every single one. That's why I delayed pulling these dread petals, just because I know having max stacks of the debuff plus the naturalist wailing on me would kind of hurt. You'll see right here I make a very, very bad mistake. When I pulled the dread petals, I forgot to pull the cultivator, which means our rogue uses shroud because I call for it, but then I pull it. It was just a mess. This was 100% my bad. My excuse is that first time doing this route, but whatever. The nice thing is I can shroud, or I can stealth, our healer can stealth, our rogue can stealth, and then our paladin ended up having invispot, so we just had to res our hunter. I know hunters can stealth with what's it called, camouflage, but I'm pretty sure it's like the lowest rank of stealth, so it's virtually impossible. So yeah, my bad on this, but thankfully in the grand scheme of things it was a pretty minor error. We just res the hunter and then go boss. This boss, Everbloom has like two of the hardest bosses in any dungeon. The Ancient Protectors and Archmage Soul are just wild, absolutely wild. This boss, ideally you have coordinated kicks. I believe in our group, what we did, because we weren't in comms with the hunter, it was me and the rogue kicking the Nature's Wrath, and then it was our Paladin kicking Toxic Bloom. I definitely miss some kicks here just because I'm so focused on living. This boss, the Noxious Charge, does hit extremely hard. It's a ton of magic damage, and you're going to have to play pretty well to be able to defensive every single one. I do suppose having double SI is beneficial here, but I don't think I'd end up using it. This is another one of those mechanics where I think even at this key level, even if I got hit by unmitigated, I wouldn't die. So just timing a frenzied regen as soon as it hits you should be enough. But yeah, this is one of those fights where going to try to be regrowthing as much as I can because I know this fight can be extremely stressful as a healer. One thing you saw there is I know that when the other mage activates and this boss catches his, I don't know if it's, I think first or second charge, I know the other boss will cast his Revitalize, so I made sure to kick that. If Revitalize goes off and your group doesn't have a purge, it's not a wipe. It's not as bad as if a Toxic Bloom goes off, but it can extend the fight a lot to the point where you might just wipe just because. So as you can see right there, I knew the boss was going to cast Revitalize, so I just got ready to kick it. Yeah, there's the cut. Let me just do this quickly. Part 2. So continuing, I have Trinket for this one. Typically, if I'm doing easier content, I'll just send Rage Heart for the damage, but in a fight like this where I know how much damage I could potentially take, I just hold it for a little bit just so I can make sure I mitigate as much as I can. See, I have Incarn right there, so I don't really bother to press anything else. Just a well-timed frenzied regen and I'm all good. One thing I could be doing here to do a little bit more damage is maintain Moonfire on both of these targets. Yeah, but like I said, once the other mage dies, this fight's pretty much free. Not really many ways you can die. Typically a lot of dungeons have just that one really hard boss that, like, if you kill it, you're timing the key, but this dungeon, this boss is really hard, the next boss is really hard, and even the last boss, when the ad spawns, if the ad doesn't die fast enough or people don't use defensives for the overlaps, even the last boss could be considered very difficult. Even this next area of trash, man, this dungeon's just kind of difficult and stressful overall. I'm kind of happy we timed down to 25. I would have liked to time the 26, but I'm more than happy with the 25 at this point. So I've been studying some routes, and I know that some people like to skip these, this like first Ice Caller, and I think they even skip this Pyromancer, but in this route we pull it. This is my typical pull. I pulled this area pretty much exactly the same as I've always done it. Pull these together, the Pyromancer and the Ice Caller. These, the assistants, I mean, they don't really do anything, but they do one thing, and it is a decent amount of tank damage. They actually do hit pretty hard, so this is one of those pulls where having more than normal Saxifine for could be beneficial. Using defensive off cooldown, because really, like, the Pyromancers, the assistants, and the Arcomasters, I don't even know how to pronounce that, but they don't do a ton of tank damage unless everyone dies and then all the casts go on you, then it can kind of hurt. So right here, I just pull all the assistants on the left side with this arcane dude. We'll just call him that. On Fortified, these assistants are kind of scary. Like, you could absolutely just get globaled if you're not too careful. So trying not to be super greedy with my raises here. Just using my defenses off cooldown and praying. This next pull, pretty inevitable for wiping on this one. I always get the first kick here. I just kick the Pyromancer. This pull's also kind of a little awkward with threat just because you have things coming in at multiple angles and your Thrash might miss or whatever, but as you can see, like right there, 100 aggro. Kind of a late regrowth, but healer's a freak, so it doesn't matter. I am calling kicks here. Our rogue does end up going down to an arcane blast, but thankfully it doesn't spiral out of control. The problem with the pyromancers is I believe their AoE damage is split among the group. So if one person dies, it's really bad because that means everyone else that's alive will be taking more damage. That's kind of what I mean when I say spiral out of control. If one person goes down, that could snowball into more deaths, but we focus the pyromancer down really fast, so not that bad. The ice collar frostbolt doesn't hit as hard as the other two, so letting that go through and just letting the healer out heal it's not a bad idea. So right here, the rest of the counter is going to come from the assistants, and because I have all of my cooldowns, I end up just pulling all the assistants with the boss. Could be scary, but with all my cooldowns, it's really not that bad. As you can see, I delay Incarn just a little bit, just so I can kind of guarantee I have it for the entire time that the assistants are alive. But yeah, like, you can see every time the boss does her Cinderbolt Storm, I mean, it's crazy how much group damage it does. It's kind of crazy that people have been able to survive this on, I think the highest Everbloom Tyrannical was a 30, but that's still, like, insane. Even a 29, 28, like, that's just wild to me. Trying to really time those regrowths to save a life. I don't know if it ever ends up doing it, but trying my hardest. So next one is the pull in with the ice. One thing you can do here is, if you can, Stampeding Roar. It'll make it a lot easier for your group to position themselves so they don't get pulled into an ice ball. I don't do a super great job at doing that, but this is one of those bosses that does hit you extremely hard every time she casts. Like, she just completely chunks you. But I think it happens like far enough apart to where you'll have enough time to kind of heal it up, especially if your healer's helping you out. This is one of those fights where, you know, I'm kind of wanting a little bit extra help from the healer, just because it's virtually impossible to have a defensive up for every single cast. Yeah, see, I roar there. I would argue it's probably better to roar the glacial fusion with the spatial compression, like the suck in and the ice ones, because that's like kind of where, if you get hit by that, like if two people get hit by that and you can only dispel one, that's probably just a death. Like right here, having a roar would be super nice. One thing I love about Bear and Incarn is, like, when you have, like, seeing Incarn about to come up, it's so soothing. You know, this boss hits you so hard, but when, you know, I see, oh my god, I have Incarn in 10 seconds, my heart rate just goes down, and it's so nice. I know a lot of other tanks have things like that, but Incarn is just such a fun ability. So pretty much just last boss, and then we time the key. I do think this is probably the hardest boss in here. I mean, I think definitely. Last boss, though, still can cause issues with the overlap, so it's not 100% free. This boss is really good for our damage because with our tier set, this boss hits so hard, we pretty much will always fully absorb the shield, so it's pretty good damage, pretty good single target. I'm just going to skip ahead here a little bit. Alright, so open up there with Bark Skin, Taunt, Moonfire, Mangle Thrash. Popping everything, trying to do as much damage as I can while the boss is taking 300% increased damage. Still Iron Furring here. Probably don't have to absolutely spam it, but just trying to play extra safe. We do have less for this first ad, so it should die pretty fast, and I believe it does. Pop Incarn, target the ad, mangle maul it as much as I can. trinket there just for a little bit of extra damage. On a target like this that, you know, ideally dies pretty fast, I don't worry too much about getting to 5 stacks of Thrash. I think just sending more Mauls and Mangles into it, you know, those hard-hitting globals, is a little bit better. One thing I try to do here is I try to clear as many of the Lashers as I can without losing uptime on the boss. So if I have to run super far away and I know that I'm not going to be able to hit the boss, I probably will just let it spawn. It's not the end of the world if you get some Lashers to spawn. They don't do a ton of damage, and they're also interruptible, so things like Skull Bash, Incap, or Typhoon can stop them. But I'm sure if a lot spawn, it could be pretty bad. So right here, I'm kind of weak on damage, relying a little bit more on my group here to kill the ad. But this group does a really, really good job on killing the ads. Pretty much always die as soon as the boss kills Genesis. But yeah, as you can see right here, like I'm trying my hardest to keep uptime on the boss. If I have to move out of melee for a second, I'm, you know, thrashing so I hit the boss still, or I'm moonfiring. I should, yeah, let Moonfire fall off there for a second on the boss. Not super good, but not the end of the world. At this key level, I'm pretty sure a whole group can live the slams without a mitigation. I think, yeah, our healer's going into bear form, so that's good. Pretty sure we get like 2 or 3 more ads. This fight's just super long. It's the same thing over and over. Kill the ads, don't die to the blows, don't die to the overlap, soak the lashers. So as you can see, our cheat death didn't proc the entire dungeon. I absolutely love the cheat death trinket, but when it doesn't proc in a dungeon, I always just think, if I just ran another damage trinket, like how much more damage would I have done? Like Augury probably would have been about 10,000 extra DPS overall. Only 2 deaths in this run. This run was actually really good. I have a lot of other keys I have recorded that I can post. I have my first ever 26, which was a Black Rook. I have 25 Atal'Dazar, which we double chested. There's a lot of keys that I didn't record that I'm really upset I didn't. Like I did my first 27 Black Rook hold, 26 Merjan's Rise, which we timed, 26 Waycrest, which we timed. But unfortunately, I didn't record those ones. Mostly because I forgot, but I'll just let the fight finish out here. Not super interesting. Yeah, so there we go. 207k overall. Let's here's the damage breakdown. This to me, this looks so odd. This is so like not normal. The thing with Everbloom though is because you have a single target boss that takes 100% increased damage and another one that takes 300% increased damage, things like Mangle, Maul are just gonna be higher because you're using those things so much more on those big like damage amps. Like my Maul, as you can see, hit for 780k, Mangle 340k. So not too like not too surprising there. But Thrash, this is the initial hit and the dot combined. In a dense dungeon like that, because Thrash is uncapped, it's just gonna do. Typically in big dungeons like that, Thrash is gonna be really high. But you can see like my lack of confidence in keys when Raise is this low. This is like casting Raise every now and then an Incarn and pretty much only casting with the Tooth and Claw proc. So my damage could have been quite a bit higher if I was just invest more of my rage into Raise, but still 208k, I definitely think that's pretty decent. Enough to time the key at least, and that's all that really matters. Here's my healing breakdown if you want to see that. Ursox Fury in a dungeon like that, again, with the uncapped Thrashes, Ursox Fury just is going to get a ton of value. We can check, I guess, interrupts. Not too bad. Only 2 deaths, so yeah, pretty good run. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos. Like I said, I do have quite a few in the backlog that I can post. I got Altaldazar, Blackrook Hold. I think I have more. I'd have to look, but yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.